Is there a health benefit to using sweeteners over regular sugar?
It depends on how much. So if you are consuming less than 10% of your calories from added sugars, there's no health harm from that. And if you're consuming the equivalent of studies are a bit mixed on the threshold, like 1.5 to 2 uh like diet Coke equivalents worth of non-nutritive artificial sweeteners, then that also has no health harm. So if you're in that range of like sugar in moderation or sweetness in moderation, it doesn't matter. If you want the sugar or you want the aspartame, like whatever you like, from a health perspective, right? Looking at risk of cardiovascular disease, for example, or cancer. If our intake of sugar is above 10% of our calories from added sugars, or if we're getting above that sort of like, say, 2 cans of Diet Coke equivalent of aspartame, then it depends. So, yes, then we might wanna swap one for the other, but our risk is going to be higher in either case. So above that threshold, sugar is roughly twice as bad as non-nutritive sweeteners, is kinda like roughly, give or take. There's a lot more studies looking at the harms of sugar than there are of non-nutritive sweeteners. Most of the studies looking at non-nutritive sweeteners have looked at like the acceptable daily intake level is set based on genotoxicity. So how likely is it to cause cancer? And the other studies looking at the health benefit have really looked at weight and like insulin sensitivity and blood glucose as their measurements. There's far fewer studies now looking at things like cardiovascular disease incidence or cancer incidence or all-cause mortality. So that's fairly new in terms of like studies looking at that. So if we're consuming a lot, it would be better, approximately like twice or double, to swap excess sugar for some sweeteners. But it's not health neutral to be consuming that much artificial sweeteners. So yeah, I mean, it basically just it depends. It depends on where you're starting and what you're swapping it for, and what else you have going on, right? We're still also talking about one out of many different diet factors, and ideally, we want to be making more like risk reducing decisions than risk increasing decisions when it comes to our overall health and diet and lifestyle. But there's a lot controlling our health outcomes that we don't have any say in. Like it's not something that is within our control to change. So I think yeah, take that with a grain of salt. Ideally, we would not consume either in excess.